Hello you lovely people and welcome to another video. It is so good to be back. And I don't know about you, but I really want to finish this challenge. So what do you say? We just pretend like the last 2 weeks didn't happen and we are shortly after week 1? Yes? Okay, fine with me. Let's go. So it is, for all intents and purposes, week 2 of my living on 80 euros a month challenge. We have again 20 euros to go shopping for this week, but we also have some stuff left from last week. For example, 450 grams of flour, around 600 grams of rice, a whole big box of Barilla pasta that absolutely nobody broke into, and 2 small sweet potatoes that miraculously disappeared, and now we have 1 big sweet potato. Don't think about it too much, it's magic. But of course, with that, we cannot cook for a week, so let's go shopping at Edeka. You know, this is not sponsored by Edeka, but I really love this supermarket because you can get nearly all of the fruits and veggies without any packaging. So I made sure to grab some onions and garlic for flavor as always, and some seasonal veggies like carrots and zucchini, which are still quite cheap at the moment. I walked past the pineapple cutting machine and I was very tempted to get one, but that was not in the budget. I was here for the plums because they are in season right now and I could get a kilo for €1.49. I also needed some white beans and I got a glass for about €2 in the organic section, which seemed expensive, but I couldn't find any other option in a glass. But on the other hand, the red lentils, you could get 500 grams for €1.45. Organic as well. Nice. Now the dry white beans in the organic section also seemed very expensive, like €4 or nearly €5 for half a kilo, so I skipped those entirely. I got some green peas and some spinach in the frozen section for some health and fitness, and then also a liter of oat milk for €1.09. I also got a little bottle of white wine, which I hate, but I needed it for a recipe. At this point, I had spent nearly 17 euros and I was wondering what I should do with the rest. In the reduced section, I couldn't find anything I needed, so I opted for a bottle of sunflower seed oil for €2.20. I still had about €1 left and I saw the pineapples again, but no, still not in the budget. So I got a bunch of radishes for 49 cents and a lime for 49 cents as well. I also looked at the pumpkins, but I hadn't planned any recipes, so we need to do this in one of the future weeks. In the non-organic section, I could find a bigger glass of white beans for much cheaper, and in the international aisle, I could find legumes for so cheap. A kilo of red lentils or white beans for about $3. So guys, make sure you always check out the international aisle. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is everything I bought at Edeka for this week. Back here we have a bag of red lentils, 500 grams, organic by the way, 450 grams of spinach, 1 liter of oat milk, 1 liter of, is it a liter? No, 750 milliliters of sunflower seed oil, a little bag of vegan Parmesan, 450 grams of peas, also organic, 3 big white onions, 1 purple onion, a whole bunch of radishes, 1.5 kilos of plums. Look at the beauty of these plums. Aren't they gorgeous? Oh, I love them. Also 1 lime, whole garlic, 2 carrots, 1 zucchini, a little bottle of white wine. Ugh. I wouldn't drink that, never ever, but we need it for a recipe. So, small bottle of white wine and a glass of extremely organic white beans. Why do I say extremely organic? Well, if you look at the label there, why won't you focus? Demeter, it's an organization of farmers and they go above and beyond what the regular organic labels need you to do, so that's why I say it's extremely organic. Sounds weird, but that's what it is. And that is everything I bought, and that came to €19.89 exactly. So even 11 cents under budget. And with all of this, and with the stuff we have left from the last video, we will now cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner for a whole week. Om nom nom. For breakfast this week, we're going to make a traditional Bavarian plum cake that we call Zwetschgendatschi. Here I can teach you a little bit of Bavarian. This is not German, it is actually the Bavarian dialect. Zwetschgen is what we call these typical Bavarian plums, and Datschi refers to a cake made out of yeast dough, and it's baked on a sheet pan. So a Datschi can be any type of sheet pan cake with fruit on top of it. In this case, since we put the Zwetschgen, the plums on it, it's a Zwetschgendatschi. For this cake, we need 500 grams of flour. We have 450 grams of flour left, which is just fine. You know, it'll work. Then we need 300 grams of oat milk. We need 80 grams of sugar, 80 milliliters of sunflower seed oil, a pinch of salt, and 1 little sachet of yeast, plus, of course, the plums, the Zwetschgen. I already washed those and de-pitted them, and this is about 1.5 kilos. So what we will do is we will just mix all of the ingredients together in this bowl, and then we will knead the dough for about 8 minutes. It might be sticky, it might be very wet, but we don't care. We will cover it with a dishcloth, and then we will let it rise for about 45 minutes. After 45 minutes, we will transfer the dough to a sheet pan that we greased beforehand with just a little bit of sunflower seed oil as well. And then we will try to make sure that the dough covers the whole sheet pan. Now, this is actually where the name comes from, this specific cake. The Bavarian word Dätschen means something like to squeeze. So actually you try to squeeze the dough in all of the corners of the sheet pan, and a datschi is then the squeezed one, if you want to translate it. You know, you can't really translate these Bavarian words one to one. It's always a little bit of a different meaning, but you get the gist of it. Now, once the dough covers the sheet pan completely, we will put the plums on top of it, and then we will add some sugar on top. Let me tell you, I tasted these plums and they are tart, these suckers. Oh, they are. So we need a little bit of sugar on top of that to balance that out. After we added the plums and the sugar to the dough, we will put the cake into the oven and bake it at 180 degrees Celsius, which is around 350 degrees Fahrenheit, for 35 to 40 minutes. As always, keep an eye on it because ovens are different, and after 40 minutes it should definitely be done. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Zwetschgendatschi right out of the oven, and you might see that there are a few pieces missing because I couldn't control myself, okay? It's so good. I forgot how good it is. Yes, the plums are extremely tart, but I put the sugar on it, and with the sugar, it's the perfect balance between tart and sweet. And my mom used to make this all the time when I still lived at home, and it so reminds me of my mom and of our kitchen at home. Now you can see this is a huge sheet pan full of cake. This will last me for an entire week of breakfasts, but of course, I will put it in the fridge, and part of it I will freeze. If you want to eat this for a whole week, freeze some of it. I have to eat another piece now. Bye-bye. The first thing we're going to cook is a creamy spinach risotto. For that, we need around 320 grams of our remaining rice, half of the bag of spinach, which is around 220 grams. We need 1 onion, the little bottle of white wine, the vegan parmesan, a little bit of olive oil, and the white beans. Oh, and a bouillon cube, in case I didn't mention it. Now, I will use the Thermomix for that because it's very convenient and it has a recipe in there that I can use. But note that you never need a Thermomix for any of the recipes that I'm cooking in my videos. You can always make them without the Thermomix, just on the stove with a pot, basically. I will leave in the description box below a link to a recipe that nearly uses the same ingredients as I do here, but it doesn't use a Thermomix. Just so you know, it's always possible without it. Alrighty, so let me prop you up and then we're gonna make this risotto. What I have to mention though is that I will be tweaking the recipe a little bit because this is a recipe for a very basic risotto, and I will be adding the beans for a bit more protein and the spinach for a little bit more health and fitness. And also the recipe specifies that you need butter. I do not use butter and I don't have vegan butter, so I will use just olive oil instead. A viewer of mine who is called La vie est dure sans confiture
awesome name by the way, mentioned that butter basically has a water in it. So I will follow this advice and will not add 40 grams of more olive oil. Instead, I will, all in all, just add about 30 grams of olive oil and a splash of water extra. And that should work just as fine. First things first, we need to pulse up these beans. So I just drain and rinse them. Now I'll put them in the Thermomix and mix them up until they are smooth. Alrighty? Let's do that. This is what the beans look like after only 30 minutes in there. I added a little bit of water because it was too firm, and now you can see it's a very squishy paste. And I chose to use beans to smuggle in a little bit of protein into the risotto because these white beans taste like basically nothing. They are very mild in flavor, so we won't even notice they are in the risotto. And now we're going to put this in a bowl and then we'll continue. So now that we have our bean paste, we can start the actual recipe. I quickly rinsed out the pot here, and then the recipe said to add 1 shallot. Now, I'm sure shallots are great, but to be honest, I think they are tiny. And I want a lot of onion in my recipes, which is why I added a whole big onion. Just cut into quarters, but it's a little bit more. Yeah, do whatever you want. I want a lot of onion. And now we'll just put on the lid. And now we're going to cut it up. Next step is to just put all the onions down. They are usually a little bit up the rim of that pot, but we put them down. And then now it says to add 20 grams of butter. As we stated, we're not going to use butter. We use olive oil. And because it says 20 grams of butter, we just use 10 grams of olive oil. That's all. Alrighty. Oh, that was a bit more. It's fine. It's fine. Next step. Put on the lid, but leave it open at the top because it needs some air. So we put this thingy on just so it's open at the top. Next step, 3 minutes of cooking the onions. 3 minutes later, the onions have been sautéed, of course not cooked, sautéed. And now the next step is to add the rice. I always wash my rice. Strictly speaking, in a risotto you wouldn't do that, but I want to wash the rice. Don't hate me for it, it's what I do. I was once on an exchange semester with 4 Asian students in a flat. So I lived with 4 Asian students in a flat. And at that time I did not wash my rice and they were horrified because of it. So now I always wash my rice. That's what they taught me. Next step, put on the lid and that thing again. And now it's gonna saute the rice for 3 more minutes. 3 minutes later, we add 60 grams of white wine. In case I didn't mention it, the Thermomix has an included scale, so you just need to basically pour in whatever you want and it weighs it. So, that was 71 grams of white wine, but it's fine. And then, you know the drill. We add this, and we add this, and then another minute. 1 minute later, the Thermomix says add 820 grams of water. Now, since we're gonna add the beans, I think I might add a little bit less. We should also add a bouillon cube. A little bit of salt. We should loosen up the rice here on the bottom. And then we should cook it for 12 minutes. Now, I will add the beans. And we're gonna add the spinach, which will also add a little bit of water. So I think it should be fine. It is not yet at the max line. It's still all right. So we're gonna cook it for 12 minutes and have occasionally look at it and see how it goes. After 12 minutes, you can see that it's not risotto yet. It's more like a soup. I guess because the spinach was still frozen when I put it in, it couldn't cook really for 12 minutes. It was more probably like half of the time. So we're gonna cook it for another 10 minutes and then see what happens. This is the risotto after another 12 minutes of cooking. So all in all, it was cooking for 25 minutes approximately. And while I said you don't need a Thermomix to make this, which is absolutely true, I do like that it's so hands-off. If you cook this in a pot on the stove, you need to constantly stir to make sure it doesn't burn. And here you just throw it in and the Thermomix stirs it. So yeah, I admit I like this. But if you do it on the stove, it's a bit more therapeutic. Just standing there, adding a little bit of veggie broth at a time and stirring it. It's kind of therapeutic. I like that as well. Anyways, this is the consistency we want, so I'm happy with that. And now we're gonna add half of the Parmesan. So we're gonna add about half of the bag. It says 40 grams and we've got 80 grams in here, so about half of the Parmesan. And it says to add another 20 grams of butter, but we don't have butter as we established, so we add a little bit more olive oil, as much as you like. Doesn't that look nice? Oh, it looks nice. And now we're gonna stir. Oh, it's very hot. It's very hot, but it's good. I cannot taste the beans at all. They really just melt into the whole recipe. Could I add the whole Parmesan? Yes, I can, and I think I will. A pinch of salt. Did I want to put the rest of the Parmesan into another recipe? Yes, I did, but I want this to taste great, so we're gonna figure it out later. More Parmesan. If you're not plant-based, of course, add regular Parmesan, but with this, even with the vegan one, so good. Here you go. One bowl. For decoration purposes, it would have been nice, of course, to have a little bit of extra Parmesan and I don't know, but I added it all in. So we have a little bit of pepper on top and some more olive oil, and it's delicious. This makes 4 servings. It has protein because of the beans. It has health and fitness because of the spinach. Mwah! A dream. I think I defeated the internet again. See you later. The second meal we're going to cook this week is a creamy pasta and peas casserole. This is my own concoction, and if you can find a better name for it, let me know down in the comments. Now, I need to explain a few things first. Number one, this big box of pasta back there, I obviously didn't buy it this week. I actually bought it last week, but for this week, and I said back then that I would deduct €2 from this week's budget, but I didn't because I simply forgot. Please forgive me, but I will deduct the €2 from next week's budget, I swear. Number two, we do have a bit of broccoli down here that I forgot to mention is still left over from last week. Remember that I didn't use up all of the broccoli and I just froze it. So this is really the original broccoli from the last week. Also, by the way, I still have some ginger left. I also didn't use up all of the ginger, but that's in the freezer and we will use it for another recipe. For the casserole, we will obviously use the pasta. And absolutely nobody already broke into the box of pasta and ate half of it. But that's fine. We don't need the whole box. We just need half of it. So that's okay. And we will also use, of course, the peas. We will use the broccoli, the carrots, the zucchini, 1 onion, a few cloves of garlic, and the oat milk. I intended originally to put cheese on this, well, half of the vegan Parmesan that I bought, but as you remember, I put it all in the risotto, so we don't have any of that Parmesan left. But I always try to find vegan cheese that tastes good, so I bought this 2 weeks ago, this Violife, let me see, what is it? Sorry for the slight emergency. I always try to find vegan cheese that tastes good. And this is all right. It's not exceptional, but it's all right. And for scientific purposes only, I will use some of this vegan cheese and put it on half of the casserole to see what it tastes like. All right, so what we're gonna do first is we will peel and dice the onion and a few cloves of garlic, 3 to 4 possibly. We will also dice up the carrots and the zucchini, and then we will saute the onion and the garlic in a little bit of oil in a pan. We will add first the carrots because they need the longest time to cook, and we will saute that for a bit as well. Then we will add the broccoli, and after a while the zucchini as well. And last but not least, of course, the peas. We will let that saute for a bit, add some salt and pepper, possibly half to a whole bouillon cube. We will add some of the oat milk to make it creamy, and if we want this whole mixture a little bit thicker, we will add a little bit of either cornstarch or just flour. And then we will see how it tastes and how it looks. Then we will also, of course, cook the pasta, and we will mix the pasta and the veggie mix and put it all in an oven-safe dish. And then we will, only for scientific purposes, put some of the veal life cheese on half of the casserole, and we will bake it in the oven at 180 degrees Celsius, which is around 350 degrees Fahrenheit, for as long as it takes to look golden brown at the top. Probably 20 to 30 minutes. We shall see. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the casserole right out of the oven. As you can see, over here is the little bit of vegan cheese. I already plated a serving for myself, and it made only a very small dent. So I would say this is at least 6 servings, possibly more. And I tried it with the cheese and without the cheese. That's why we have a hole right here in the middle. And you don't need the cheese. Nah, if you're not plant-based, use real cheese if you want to. I think that's good. The vegan cheese, nah. It's not bad, don't get me wrong. It adds a little bit of something, but it's also not worth the extra money. But with all of these peas and all of the other veggies, there's a lot of veggies in there, and it's really filling and it tastes delicious. Although it's so simple, you know, there's not a lot of ingredients in there, and it's really just salt, pepper, a bouillon cube. I added a little bit of sugar, and you saw me pour on a little bit of olive oil in the end because I thought there's really absolutely no fat in this. I should probably add a little bit of fat. The simple things are sometimes the best ones. See you later. Bye-bye. And the third meal we're going to cook this week is an easy red lentil and sweet potato soup. Ever since I cooked that Turkish red lentil soup, I am very fond of red lentils in soup. It's a really nice combination. For this soup, we need, of course, red lentils, about 180 grams of them. Then a big sweet potato. You remember the 2 tiny little sweet potatoes I had left over from last week? Yeah, they disappeared during my summer break, so I had to buy a new one. So just imagine this sweet potato being actually the 2 small ones from last week. We also need a red onion. We need a few cloves of garlic. We need a little bit of ginger, also left from last week, and some oat milk and veggie broth and a lime. What we're going to do first is we're going to chop up the red onion, the garlic, the sweet potato, and the ginger. Then we're going to add a little bit of oil to a pot and saute the onion, the garlic, and the ginger first, just for a few minutes. Then we will add a tablespoon of curry powder, half a teaspoon of turmeric, and as much chili powder as you like. Personally, Toby and I don't like hot food too much, so we're gonna keep it to a bare minimum. Then we let the spices bloom for a little bit, then add the washed red lentils and the sweet potato. We're gonna let that saute for a bit as well, and then we will add about 500 milliliters of veggie broth and 400 milliliters of oat milk. The original recipe wants coconut milk, but we all know how I feel about coconut milk in my food. Not very positive. So we just exchange it with oat milk. Then we will let that come to a boil. We will reduce it to a simmer and cook it for about 15 minutes, just until, the sweet potato and the lentils are done. We will add salt and pepper if we like. And then the recipe says to blend the whole soup. Now, I'm not sure if I want to do that. Toby and I like chunks in our soups. We prefer stews than really creamy soups. But I wondered if I could blend it up and add some rice, because rice would be maybe nice as an addition as well. I'll think about it and I'll come back to you later. And here, ladies and gentlemen, we have the finished product. After 15 minutes of cooking, I added quite a bit of salt and a little bit of sugar and some more curry powder and some more curcuma. Basically a little bit more of everything, plus salt and sugar. Now, in terms of beauty, this does win no prize. I've seen really more beautiful meals. But in terms of nutrition and how fast it is to make, it gets the first prize. I mean, it took me 15 minutes to prepare everything and then 15 minutes to cook it, but that was hands off. And then I did like smush the potatoes and the lentils a little bit, but I didn't want to blend it. Maybe I'm just too lazy to put it into the Thermomix. So I also didn't add any rice, but I think I'll just leave it like that. It tastes really good like that. Well, I have to admit it's not beautiful, but it tastes good. Is it as good as the Turkish red lentil soup? No. It's different and I like it, but I prefer the red lentil soup. You guys, I totally forgot to add the lime juice. That is what I bought this lime for, just for this recipe. And with the lime juice, it's a lot better. I have to admit that. I wouldn't rate it as top-notch as the Turkish red lentil soup. Still not. But with the lime juice, it's a lot better. So make sure to add that.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of this video. And before I say anything else, let me just say thank you. Before my break, when I posted on the community page, I was a bit nervous because I always feel bad when I'm not posting a video soon enough in my own head. And I knew that I would be on a break for a few weeks and I really felt bad and nervous and I didn't know what you were going to say. And then you wrote all of these beautiful comments and they warmed my heart. I really mean it. I didn't know why I was so nervous. You guys are literally the best and you deserve a hug, definitely. So come on here, let me hug you. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. I love hugs. Now, with that being said, thank you again for watching this video, for commenting, for being so nice. And I will see you in my next video. Bye-bye.